Okay, so I have started recording this session and I'm going to share my screen now. Let me know once you're able to see the screen.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So in the previous session, we understood on how to explain the project in the interview and how we can come up with the project descriptions uh, in the profile or in the resume, and what are the tricks that you should follow in coming up with the projects in the profile. And in today's session, we'll understand mm, how to come up with the roles and responsibilities in the profile. All right. So in your resume, you will be coming up with your profile summary and stuff. And also, the critical part is like what all the projects that you have worked in, uh, right? And the particular project that you have worked, you should be mentioning those particular project in the profile and how to mention the points or the description of the project. And you understood in the previous session like from where you can get the project description. Like if it is a web application, you will be getting about us option or about a section in the web application which gives you the detailed information of what exactly the application is all about. That is one part. And if it is a mobile application, then um, in the section called as about this app, right, you'll be getting all the information regarding the application. Okay, that is one part. And after once you come up with the description, project description, the critical part is like what you did on that particular project will be understood through the section called as roles and responsibilities. So in roles and responsibilities, you're going to mention what are the things that you performed on the project and you were involved in testing that particular project, right? So today we are going to understand like how to come up with the roles and responsibilities um, on what is your work nature on that particular project that you have worked on. Okay, and as you see, the last point that I have mentioned here is recent project should be mentioned at the top. That is first project. Sorry, mention at the top or at the first, right? So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the roles and responsibility of the pretty first project that you have worked, right? So like whenever you're going to come up with the roles and responsibilities of the pretty recent project that you are working on or that you have worked on, okay, the roles and responsibilities will be too much. Like the points in the roles and responsibilities will be more, right? Suppose imagine the pretty first project that you have worked on, the roles and responsibilities on the pretty first project that you have worked on would be very less. Why? Because that is when you have started working on a particular project and your roles and responsibilities would be very less. Why? Because that is when you have started working on the project. And the pretty second project that you have worked on would be the roles and responsibilities would increase. And the pretty recent project that you're working on, your roles and responsibilities would be more, right? As and when the number of projects increases, the roles and responsibilities also would increase. It is as simple as that. Okay. um, Now, let us understand how to come up with the roles and responsibilities in your profile and what kind of points that you can come up with while providing the roles and responsibilities on the resume. Okay. So, mm, let me say, whenever you are coming up with the project information, as I gave you the tips, based on the tips only, we'll be coming up with the project and the roles and responsibilities. So, here I'll say project 3. Okay. So, and the name of the project, for example, um, I'll say ABC project. Okay, is the name of the project. And now for this particular project, I need to come up with a description. Okay. So I mentioned the project name and then description. So from where you'll get the description of the project, I'll mention it over here. So we can come up with the uh, project description from about us section if it is a web application. Okay, and if it is a mobile application, then can come up with the project description from about the app, about the app on um, the Play Store or App Store. Play Store or App Store. So if it is a mobile application, you can come up with the project description from about the app section in the Play Store or App Store of the application. Right. So whichever application that you have worked on. If it is a mobile application, all you need to do is just search for that particular application in the Play Store. Okay. And in Play Store, you will be seeing about the app section. Once you select that about the app, you will see the detailed information of that particular application. What exactly that application is uh, developed for or built for, what is the use of this particular application, and uh, who would get benefited out of that application. All this information should be provided, and you need to select the points in such a way that once anybody goes through this project description that you have mentioned in your profile, by going through the 3 to 4 lines of description itself, they should be in a position to understand, oh, okay, this application is all about this, and this is the benefits that users are going to get, etc. So only 3 to 4 lines should be sufficient, and those 3 to 4 lines should explain the brief introduction of that particular project that you have worked on. Okay, that is how the description should be. All right. Now, once you have come up with the project name and the description of the project, the next critical point is roles and responsibilities. Okay. So, based on these roles and responsibilities only, okay, the interviewer will understand, okay, these are the things that this person has worked on, right? So, based on the roles and responsibilities and the tools that you have used and the work that you have done on that particular project, okay, will get you the job. All right. So now, since it is the pretty first project that I have worked on, okay, I've started to work as a fresher, and this is a pretty first project that I have worked on. Okay. So, what are the roles and responsibilities that I would come up with on my first project? So, the pretty first point is, I'll say, whenever I start as a test engineer, right? The pretty first thing that I would look forward for is the requirement, right? And once the requirement is given, I will go through the requirement and I'll try to understand the requirement. Or the product owner or the business analyst would have given me a walkthrough on the requirement, right? Based on the walkthrough or based on my understanding, I'll try to understand what exactly uh, select the requirement document says, and based on that, I will understand and I will proceed further. So the pretty first point here in my roles and responsibilities would be the understanding the requirement, which is shared by the product team. See, I'll mention as product team. Okay, it can be a business analyst. Okay, it can be a product owner, anybody. Okay, the person who is responsible to give us the requirement. All right. So understanding the requirement which is shared by the product team, um, the form of, they can share it in the form of a confluence page or word document, etc. Right. So they can share the requirement document in any form. It can be a confluence document or it can be a word document, etc. So what is this confluence? I'll just give you a brief about what is the confluence is. See, Confluence is a web-based corporate wiki developed by Australian software. Okay, Atlassian. So Atlassian is the organization. If you see here, Atlassian Confluence, right? So what is the use and purpose of this Confluence? Is if you want to prepare any document with respect to the project or with respect to any particular feature, they use Confluence as a tool in order to come up with that particular document. So, so if you see here, create, collaborate, and organize all your work in one place. So, whatever feature that has to be developed, okay, and what would be the functionality of that particular feature, everything would be documented, and that particular document can be created using this particular tool called as Confluence. And this Confluence is a tool which is owned by organization called as Atlassian. Okay. In the same way, uh, Jira is also a tool. Okay. And this Jira tool again is owned by this Atlassian company. Okay. Or Atlassian organization. All right. So Confluence is a tool which is used to document any particular feature and share that particular functionality of that feature through this particular tool. Just keep so much in your mind. Okay. This is one thing. And second point in my roles and responsibilities. Once I go through the requirement, once I understand the requirement, the pretty next step that I'll do as a test engineer is I will identify the scenario, identify the um, identify. Okay, I'll write this. Identify all possible, identify all possible scenarios, identify all possible scenarios. How will you identify the scenarios? Using test case design techniques, right? Identify all possible scenarios using test case design techniques, based on the understanding of the requirements. Right. So based on whatever that you have understood, you have identified all the possible scenarios using the test case design techniques like boundary value analysis or equivalence class partitioning or a state transition, etc. Okay. And the next one, once after you identify all the possible scenarios, what would be the next point is you will convert those particular scenarios into test cases, right? So into a pure test cases where you will follow those particular test cases in order to test the application. So my next roles and responsibility would be convert the test scenarios into test cases, convert the test scenarios into test cases, test the functionality of the feature. Okay, so this should be my next roles and responsibility. And once I have converted the test scenarios into test cases, and once I've completed writing the test cases, I will be mm, the next responsibility would be giving it for peer review or for managerial review. Okay, so I would give it for peer review, and the peer who has written the test cases for his feature, he will be giving that to me to review. Okay, so I will be involved in reviewing the test cases. So review the test cases written by the peer QA engineer. Okay, so this is my next role and responsibility. Basically, I will be involved in writing the test case, and once after I write it, I'll provide it for review. Same way, another test engineer will write the test cases, and he will provide it for review. So I will be involved in reviewing the test cases. And uh, so next roles and responsibility to continue, I'll say I will be involved in fixing the review comments on the test case document, right? So once the review is done, in case if any changes has to be done or any additional test case has to be added, right? Or any test case which the reviewer feels it is duplicate which has to be removed. Okay, so all those things I'll be performing. Okay, that is again one more role and responsibility. And once the test case is approved and I have a test case document which is approved, okay, and now once the build is given for testing, okay, what I'll be doing is I'll just simply follow the test cases, and test the feature. Follow the test cases and test the feature once the build is provided for testing. This is my next role and responsibility. Okay. And once I test the feature, it is quite obvious that I'm going to identify defects or bugs, or I'm going to catch the defects. Right. And what I'll do once I catch the defects, I will be raising the defects. So that is my next roles and responsibility. So raise the defects using the defect tracking tool. Okay. So you can mention the tool that you have worked on. Right. For example, if you have raised the defects using Jira, then you can mention Jira. Or you have used a different tool apart from Jira. So I'm going to give one couple of tools so that you can mention in your profile whichever that you feel you're comfortable with and you have used. Okay, Jira is there, and we have something called as HP QC. There is one more tool, and we have Bugzilla. This is again one more tool which is used to create the defects. Okay, right. So I think that should be sufficient. And what else? So understanding, identifying, converting, reviewing, fixing, following test case for execution, raise the defects, and manage defect lifecycle. Manage the defect lifecycle until the are and closed. So these are my roles and responsibilities in my pretty first project that I have worked on. Kindly give me a minute, guys. Okay. So once I started working as a QA engineer, this is the pretty first project that I have worked on. Okay. And these are my roles and responsibilities. Now I have I've been moved to some other project, or I changed my company. Now I'll be working on a different project, right? So now that would be my second project, right? So I have named it as project three. The reason behind that is like I was planning to come up with three different projects. That is the reason I've named it as project three. Now my next project is project two, right? So always keep in your mind like whatever the sequence that I'm giving, this particular project three should be in the last. Okay, this project two should be in between, and the project one, the recent project that I'm working, it should be at the top. So that is the reason I'm giving the numbers in a descending order. Okay, don't get confused. All right. So now my project two would be, I'll say XYZ project. Okay, this is my second project that I'm going to work on. All right. So I need to come up with the description, and description how I'll come up with the same thing. No changes in how to come up with the description. All right. So I've come up with the project description. Now, for this second project that I'm working on, what should happen is my roles and responsibilities should increase, right? Because this is my second project. So whatever that I used to do in my first project, apart from this, my roles and responsibilities should increase. So it should be in a ascending order. The roles and responsibilities should keep on increasing as and when the number of projects that you are working on is increasing. Right. Either it can be incremental way in the tools that you are using, right? In the first project, you might be using a defect tracking tool, uh, which is called as Bugzilla, and in your second project, the defect tracking tool might be completely different, right? You might be raising the defect using Jira tool, right? And in your first project, you were using select Word document in order to get the requirements. But in your next project, you might get the requirements in the Confluence doc, right? And that particular tool should be mentioned, right? And uh, in your first project, you were just involved in testing the UI of the application, that is front end testing. But going further, like you got opportunity to work on the back end testing or testing the APIs, all right? So now what will happen? Those API testing concepts or the points of testing the API should be included in the roles and responsibilities. So that is how, as and when the number of projects that you work on will increase, the roles and responsibilities points also will increase. Okay. So now what I'll do is I will just copy these points. Why? Because it most of the points will remain the same. So I'll copy it till 7, paste it over here. Yeah, what happened? Second point, convert. Okay, and then there's my fourth point. Fifth point. This is my seventh point. And then raise the defects using the defect tracking tool. And then once the defect is fixed, then what we will be doing is we'll be retesting the defects, right? So retest the defect, retest the defect once it's fixed. Retest the defects once it is fixed and read the status of defect. Suppose in case if it is retest is pass, then update the status as pass, retest pass. Suppose in case if it is fail, then update the status as fail and assign the ticket back to the developer. Uh, and suppose in case the defect is fixed and it is moved to different environments and you have tested it in multiple environments, then you can update the status as closed. Okay. So once after the defect is raised, then you will be doing the retesting. This is uh, my next roles and responsibility. And apart from this, I will add, I used to prepare the um, daily or weekly uh, test execution report. We prepare the daily or weekly test execution report. The tested week, right? So whichever feature I used to test, I used to prepare the test execution report based on the number of test cases that got executed and number of test cases that are failed and number of test cases those are passed, etc. Okay, so this is one thing. And what would be my next responsibility is once I prepare it, then I'll say share the test execution report to the manager or higher management. Okay. So once I prepare the test execution report by myself, then I should share it with the higher management team or to my manager so that even they are aware of what is the test execution progress. That is one thing. And what else? What else? Suppose imagine that I'm working on a agile methodology, right? So if I am working on a agile methodology, I will be part of multiple meetings, right? I'll be part of a product grooming meeting. I'll be part of daily stand-up meeting. I'll be part of select retrospect meeting. I'll be part of a sprint backlog meeting, right? So I'll be attending multiple meetings. Even that is my responsibilities, right? So I can mention that point as well. So I'll say attend uh, the meetings like. So if you mention these points, right? Like I used to be part of this meeting, this meeting, this meeting. What you are saying, you are informing in your roles and responsibilities that you used to work in agile methodology, right? And in this particular project, you worked on agile methodology. Understood? So that way, your roles and responsibility will give a information to the interviewer. Okay, this project, this person has worked in agile methodology, right? So attend the meetings like I'll say daily stand-up meeting. Okay, and I'll say product backlog meeting. I'll say product backlog sprint planning meeting. Say sprint grooming meeting. Mm, I'll say sprint retrospect. I can still say like there are multiple others, right? Fine. So yeah, I believe this would be more than my previous project, right? So I've come up with additional roles and responsibilities in my second project that I have worked on. All right. So now let me come up with the roles and responsibilities of the current project that I am working on. Okay. So here now what will happen? This would be my current project. So I'll say project one. Okay. And I'll say M&O project. Okay. This is my current project. And for this project, I need to come up with the description. Okay, it would be the same, no changes. And to come up with the roles and responsibilities of this, what I'll do is, see, this project I'll be coming up with whatever the points that I would like, right? And you people can fetch these points and use these points in your resume. Okay, but make sure that whatever the roles and responsibilities that you are mentioning and the tools that you are mentioning, you should be really very well versed with those particular tools and the responsibilities that you are mentioning, right? Because the questions might come from your roles and responsibilities. So they might ask you, um, what used to happen in the sprint grooming meeting, right? And they might ask you, uh, what kind of discussion used to happen in product backlog meeting, right? You should be in a position to answer them. All right. So now roles and responsibilities. All right. So now what I'll do is I'll simply copy few of the points here. Mm, I'll copy points till I'll copy till point number 6. Because these things will remain same. These things will be common across any project that you work, right? So you'll go through the requirement document, you'll understand it, and you'll identify the scenarios, and you will come up with the test cases. So these things will remain common. Okay, follow the test case and test it. Okay, so now imagine like you were working on only the web application. Okay, now in your current project you have started working on the mobile application as well, right? So now since you have started working on mobile application, you need to come up with what are the different types of testing that you used to perform on your mobile application as well, right? So we'll come up with those different points, right? In mobile application, what type of testing that you will perform, like I can say um, perform mm, installation, installation, comma, update. Okay, installation, comma, update, comma, uninstallation, testing of the mobile application, right? So this is the pretty first type of testing that we'll be doing. Uh, Given any particular mobile application for testing, first thing what you will do is first you'll install the application in the mobile phone and check whether the application is properly installed in the device. And suppose imagine there is some update. Check whether you are able to update that particular updates for the application. And suppose imagine you don't want to use that application anymore. What you will be doing? You will be uninstalling it. Uninstall that application and check whether you are able to uninstall the application. So this is my roles and responsibility on mobile application. And I'll still come up with certain other points like I'll say perform orientation testing on the mobile application, right? Orientation testing, as in, suppose I'll just check whether the mobile application is working fine on the portrait mode and landscape mode, etc. Right? So that particular testing I'll be doing. And suppose imagine I also started working on the back end of the application, that is testing the APIs of the application, right? I can come up with that particular points as well. Okay. So I'll say mhm, verify the network calls. Verify the network calls of the mobile application using charts proxy, or I can say Bob's. Okay. So I used to check the network calls like whenever I used to perform any action on the mobile application, which API is called and from which particular API the data is received. So all those testing I used to do. Okay. And also um, perform API testing using Postman tool, I'll say, right? If you see here in my roles and responsibilities, I'm coming up with the tools that I have used. Okay. So you might get the questions from these tools. Like they might ask the questions from Charles Proxy tool. They might ask question from Burp Suite. They might ask question from Postman, right? So your roles and responsibilities will play a critical role uh, in your interviews, right? So there's one thing I use Postman, and mm, I will say it's the network calls, the web application using the developer option, the browser, right? So if you people don't know, like I can show you something, few things, right? So see, there is a, if you do a right click, right, you'll get an option to inspect. Okay. And in this inspect, we have multiple options like elements, console, source, network, performance, memory, application, security, lighthouse, recorder, performance insights, etc. There is something called as network. If you select network, right, for example, what I'll do, I'll say flipkart.com. You see what is happening once I provided flipkart.com as the URL and push the enter button. You see, there are multiple APIs that is getting called. See how you will get to know what is the API which will be coming within this phrases. Okay. So this is a API basically, right? So if you go to these headers, you'll get to know what is the URL that is used and what is the request method that is used and what is the status code, right? So I hope API sessions are started for you people, right? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So API sessions are started for you people.
Yes.
Okay. And have you have a brief understanding about what is a URL, what is the request method, what is the status code, or it is not it started, or it's not it gone till there. Okay, can somebody tell me what is the recent topic that is going on in API?
HTTP status code.
Yeah, if you have gone till HTTP status codes, then URL, HTTP methods would have been completed, right?
No, sir. Still.
So you don't know HTTP methods: post, put, patch, delete.
Yeah, yes, sir. Completed. Complete.
Okay, cool. So whatever that you understood, I'm showing it over here only for you people, right? What is this request method? Is it get request method? The request method is get. Status code is 200, and request URL is this, right? So everything you can find it in the network tab itself. So what is this particular network tab? These things, right? These elements, console, source, performance, etc. These all are developer tools. Okay, in order to debug things, you can make use of this developer tools option, right? And if you want to understand from where these particular data are coming, right? Using these network tools or developer tools, you will be able to understand. For example, I'll show you one simple example. Okay, what I'll do is I'll just log in. Okay, now what I will do is I'll simply add a product to the cart. Okay, router stop. Okay, I have added this product to the cart, right? Now what I'll do, I will open the inspect element and go to network. All right. So now what I'll do, I'll just clear this and I'll refresh this page. Okay. So if you see here, among this network calls, there is one fetch API. If I go to this fetch API, right, whatever that you see the data over here, right? See, you're seeing the price of three items. Okay, 859. Discount is 6860. Platform fee is 3. Okay, and total amount is 3002. Right? Whatever the data that you are seeing over here, I'll show you from where you are getting that data. See here, value is 3002. Correct. Total amount is 3002. Correct. So from where you are getting this? You are getting this particular value from a API called as fetch API. Okay, and this fetch API is responsible to give you the value of that particular product, right? So this is a payable amount, right? The total payable amount is 3002. Correct. And what is the actual value of that particular product? Nine, sorry, 6857. Okay. So you will save 6857 on this order. So 6857. See, total amount saved 6857. Correct. From where you are getting? See, the total amount saved is 6857. Correct. From where you are getting? You are getting that particular value from the API. This fetch API only is giving all the data. Whatever the data that you are seeing in the front end, okay, it is rendered, or that particular data is provided by the backend. All you need to know is like which particular API is providing that particular data. You need to understand. Okay. There, see, you can see here, right? Price is 5859. Correct. 5859. I'll show you that 5859 in the front end. You see here 5859. Correct. And discount is 6860, right? I can show you the discount 6860. See, discount. This is the discount key. Under discount key, the value is 6860. Correct. So whatever the data that you get in the front end, it is provided by the backend APIs. Okay. So this way, I used to verify the network calls through web application developer tools. So whatever the tool that you are seeing over here, right? This is known as developer tools. Okay. In developer tools, under network, I used to debug the network calls. Clear? That is the meaning of that particular roles and responsibility that I have mentioned over there. Okay. So see, just for your understanding, I've shown it. But once you start working and once you start your job as a QA engineer, you should know all this stuff. If you are portraying yourself as an experienced person. All right. Okay. Let's continue. So I'll come up with more uh, roles and responsibilities. Network calls. Okay. Mm. You can mention other tools also while doing the mobile application testing, like I'll say perform the mobile application testing uh, using Android Studio. Android Studio um, with emulators, emulators and simulators. Okay, emulators or simulators, or I can say I'll come up with other tools also, like or browser stack, browser stack um, to test the application in different virtual devices. Okay, basically, Android. Once you use Android Studio, right, you can simulate uh, a virtual device, which would be a kind of replica of a real device. So, in that virtual device, you can install the mobile application and you can test it. Okay, and there is another tool called as browser stack, wherein it will have a list of virtual devices. Okay, you can select any one virtual device with a specific operating system. You can install the mobile application in that virtual device, and then you can test it. Okay, that is one point. Okay, and mm, yeah, you can mention like perform mobile application testing using ADB commands, right? You can mention this point, and mm, I can say it's the crash logs, the ADB commands. Suppose imagine you are using Android device, right? Once you use the application is crashing. But we need to know, right, why the reason behind why the application is crashing. So in order to know that, we need to get the logs. Through that logs only, developer will understand like why exactly the application is crashing. So how to get the logs? Using ADB commands, you can get the logs for Android devices. If you are using iOS device or iOS application, in iOS, so like in iPhone itself, they have an option to fetch the crash logs. Okay, they have an option. Um, it's nothing so like if it is Android, we need to use this external tools in order to get the logs. But in iOS, each and every time when you use the application, if the application crashes, that crash log will automatically get saved in a analytics file of the iOS device. Okay, so that is one thing. And what else I can say? Yeah, uh, so I'll say verify the data by writing the SQL query to verify the data by writing the SQL query to um, the data database, right? I used to write the SQL query to check whether whatever the data that I am verifying is uh, appropriate or not. Okay, and then so I mentioned about the SQL query, I mentioned about the APIs, I mentioned about the ADB commands. Um, if you want, you can mention more points based on the technical stuff that you have understood in ADB commands or in Postman or in any other tools. Okay, those things. And yeah, what I'll do is I'll just use the other points. Whether I've told raise the defects, follow the test cases and test the feature. Okay, I'll add these things as well. Okay, so raise the defects using defect tracking tool, etc., etc. So, see, the thing that you want to notice, you should be noticing is like as and when my project is increasing, my roles and responsibilities points is also increasing. And my pretty recent project, I've added all the points that I can come up with. Okay, so you can use any of these points in case if it is suitable for you people to add it in your profile. Okay, so any doubts on how to come up with the roles and responsibilities? Okay, and as as per this particular point, right, a recent project should be mentioned at the top. Okay, so that is the reason I've provided project one over here. So this is a pretty recent project that I'm working. This should be at the top in the profile, and this should be at the second place in the profile, and this should be in the last. So that is the reason I've given the number in descending order. Okay, for your understanding. All right, so did you people understand like how much the roles and responsibilities plays a role in fetching a job? Okay, fine. So all right, so I'll stop it here today. And with this, the first project is completed with the resume building and how you can come up with the projects in your profile and stuff. Okay. Tomorrow, I'll be starting with the live project. Okay. That would be the second project wherein I'll come up with a requirement document. Okay. And for that requirement document, I'll come up with a design. Okay. So like I do not have the exact schema designs wherein I have a designs in the form of an image. Okay. So we'll use that particular design and we'll understand the requirement, and uh, I'll be creating a Jira account. Okay, wherein I'll be explaining you people the Jira tool, and I'll add you people to that particular Jira tool. Okay, so once I add you people to the Jira tool, uh, you will understand in the real time how people will work in the project as a QA engineer, and what are their roles and responsibilities on a daily basis, what they will be doing. Okay, all those things you'll understand, and that would be the end of the project session. So I might take another uh, 4 to 5 sessions for you people in order to complete the second project, uh, or in order to give you the select live project experience. Okay, so if you people have any doubts, you can ask me, or else we can back up for the day. Okay, let me stop the recording.